Welcome back to the channel. We'll get the chain unhooked here. Brought in a 1710. I believe it has a bad motor, but we're going to do this unedited. We're going to test fire it and see the wiring is all screwed up. So we're going to go directly right to the starter. I'm not sure if they're firing on both cylinders, but we're going to find out real quick. So going to get the chain unhooked and we'll go from there. If the motor, we're going to pull the motor probably in this video if we have time. So we'll go from there. I hope everyone enjoys these videos unedited. We're going to spray some WD-40 down them, the cylinders. We're going to hook up the battery right directly to the starter. And the nuts are already off there, so we'll get a nut, 1/4 inch. A little bit of a tight area right there. We're not going to worry about if we have spark or not. We're going to just make sure that a rod isn't broken. So we're going to go get a set of cables here. We're going to ground it right to this battery. And we're going to turn it over and see if we have and just what I thought, it's not firing on this cylinder right here. So we're gonna start pulling this apart. I'm gonna show you how I just take them apart. These aren't real hard, so we'll go real slow. We're gonna just pull the motor, we're gonna pull the fuel tank. We're not gonna do as fast as the last video at 5 minutes. Going to show you in a little bit more detail how I do it. So I'll be moving the camera around quite a bit. First thing I'm going to do is we're going to take that hood off. Takes a 1/2 inch to do that. Drop the keeper down in. So now we have the hood off. We're going to pull the front grill housing off next. We're going to get the harness off here. This harness isn't that good, but I keep even my bad ones for the simple reason is you never know when you're going to need an end or anything of that nature. So the next thing we're going to do is take the front off. Takes a 1/2 inch to do that also. Have to use an extension. Sometimes you can get in there, sometimes you can't. I'm going to do the other side here. I saved all that hardware right there. Now when I put these front nose pieces back on, I use a magnetic socket to do it, to hold the bolts. Okay, this shield's loose right here. What we're going to do next is get the fuel tank off, and then we're going to take the controls off, and then we'll probably lift the motor a little bit. We already have the starter on hooked, but we'll take this front piece off here. This one here is in exceptionally good shape. I'm a little upset this motor's not good, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Sell a lot of parts for these. We're going to take this off. This firewall off. Okay, now I just loosened that bolt up right in this area right there. That's where your light ground is on your harness too. So you definitely want, if you are putting one together and you're testing out your harness and it's not working, it's just because it's not grounded in that area right there. So we're going to take a 7/16 next. Oops, I have to put the socket on the right. We're going to come around to the other side. Right there's the key switch hanging right out of the side, so I knew that the harness is in pretty bad shape. I knew they were having electrical issues. Now, one thing is on the controls, if you have M18, KT17, your fuel tank will come out and go around these controls on both sides. If you have one with an M18 in it, or excuse me, an M12, you'll have to take the controls off because they slide through a hole, which I'll show you when we take this off. And the fuel line's already on hook because I already sold the fuel pump. Right there's the slots right there. That's where your cable goes in. Now, if you have an M12, your controls go through this hole right here. This is where your fuel line goes through. So now we're going to take the controls off right there. That's your throttle right there. Takes a 1/4 inch to do that. Tuck them cables down in there. They have a lot of energy. You don't want to lose an eye over one. Now, this is a trick I use for the choke right here. I'll show you what I use. I use a long extension and a screwdriver type handle. And this one here is a little bit of an issue getting this one off. But that one came out pretty fairly easy. Next thing we're going to take off is the wiring harness for it. Now this was a 1710. This does not have solid state ignition. This has points ignition. So I didn't even check to see if I had spark, because actually these will run on one cylinder. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the drive shaft off right there. This one right here, and we're going to pry that back. Takes a 9/16 to do that one. Motor turns over pretty easy when it's only at one cylinder. Now I'm going to spray these rubber drives. I'm going to spray them down with WD-40. As you've heard before, I really like WD-40. It's an inexpensive lubricant, keeps everything clean. I like the smell of it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the bottom bolts off for the motor. We're going to use that 9/16 ratchet wrench again. They're 3/8 bolts here. You can see right in there, this had a lot of rat's nests in it, mice. I was surprised the starter still worked. Now over the winter, I have an 1812. You've seen it in past videos. I'm going to tear it apart, re-decal it, make it look really nice. I love my 1812. We're almost to November here in New York State, and I mowed with it yesterday. We're going to be 76 degrees here today. This is the tough one over the axle to get. A lot of times I put a floor jack underneath them. You can see they didn't even use tie rods. They have, I want to make sure you see that in the camera. They use clevises right there to steer it. Camera took a little bit of a spill, but we'll all right, we're going to move it over to the other side. Now the other side, you can actually do some of it with an impact, and I am going to get a 9/16 because the steering rod is not in the way. Must be I grabbed the wrong socket. Didn't pay attention. Takes a 9/16. Now when I put these motors back in, these bolts here are in pretty good shape. A lot of times I use brand new bolts. Sometimes you have to run a tap down through them on the motor plates to make sure that your threads are good. One thing else we have to do is we have to unhook the electric clutch if it isn't already. I'm going to see if the electric clutch is unhooked, and it is not. You can see it right there. I'll get my knife out. And that's unhooked. So now we should be ready to, we're going to pull it up. I am going to take this shield off. I'm going to show you where there's a hidden bolt. It doesn't have to come off pulling the motor, but a lot of people don't realize where the bolts are on this front cowling here. And when you put WD-40 on that drive shaft right there, they'll slide right off. That one wasn't too bad coming right off. Let me get a special wrench. Now, one thing I'm going to show you is, and this one didn't have it, that bolt was out right there. That one right there was out. That one is a necessity to have in there. If you have one of them starters that have the stud coming out the front, that'll dead short against this shield right here, this cowling. So you definitely want to have that one in there. It's very, very important. The other one, as you can see, is right there. So we're going to take that off, and we're going to take that cowling off. Now, when I put these together, I like all the shields on them. You can see this motor here, it's kind of dirty. And right there's a Borg Warner clutch. I sell a lot of them clutches right there. So we're gonna put the camera off to the side here, and we're gonna lift that right out. And there we go. I'll give you a good look at this whole area right here. We're about 17 minutes into the video right here from the complete start. There's the dry shaft, and I will dismantle the rest of this machine today. You can see the mouse nest right in there. I was surprised that starter still worked. So the motor's out. That's how you do it. It's a real simple job. Don't sweat this at all. I do quite a few per week. So everyone have a great day. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. I so appreciate you watching. I hope you like them when they're the videos when they're not edited, and we'll talk to you on the next one.